Okay, thanks everyone for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started in a minute or so. I see a lot of people are still joining the webinar, so just give it a minute. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much everyone for joining this webinar. My name is Evan Golden, and I am the Senior Solutions Engineer for the VisualScript applications for both Jira and for Confluence. I'm joined here today by our VP of Product, Joshua Platt. And in today's webinar, we will be discussing the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe, and how it can be configured with both Jira and VisualScript. Go ahead and please enter all questions and comments in the Q&A section of the webinar so we can answer them for you. Let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda. First, we will do a high-level overview of SAFe. Really, the focus here is to provide some context as to what is being built in Jira and reported on with VisualScript. We will review the different SAFe levels and their components, as well as the different configurations. After that, we will review one way to implement essential SAFe with out-of-the-box Jira configurations. Next, we will discuss the challenges of reporting when implementing SAFe with Jira. Our demo will focus on essential SAFe. So we will next review some common reports and planning tools used by Agile release trains. Then we will provide an overview of what VisualScript is and how it can be used to fill the gaps in reporting when implementing essential SAFe with Jira. And finally, we will demo our essential SAFe solution with VisualScript for Jira. So what is SAFe? SAFe is a framework for organizations implementing Agile at scale. It focuses on delivering consistent value to the customer. It helps with the alignment, the collaboration, and the solution delivery across large numbers of Agile teams. Teams can be both Scrum or Kanban, and SAFe has 3 different levels and 4 different configurations, which we will review. Levels. There are 3 levels in SAFe. These are essential, which we will primarily focus on today, large solution, and portfolio. Let's discuss these one by one. The essential level is the most basic level of SAFe. At this level, we have a single Agile release train, or ART, which is a team of teams. We will dig into Agile release trains a little bit later. The focus at this level is feature development. It includes multiple development teams that are working on features for a single program. Features live in the product backlog that is managed by product management, and teams work out of their team backlogs. This is the level where program increment or PI planning takes place. We will also provide more details on program increments. The large solution level. When solutions get too large for a single Agile release train, multiple Agile release trains are stood up. These together work on a larger solution that makes up what is called a solution train. The focus is the delivery of capabilities that live in the solution backlog that is managed by solution management. Capabilities are then broken down into multiple features that are developed by individual Agile release trains. So the portfolio level includes value streams. Value streams are a set of steps that organizations use to deliver solutions to customers. These solutions provide continuous flow of value to the customer. The portfolio level also includes portfolio epics. These are large initiatives in the business that support an overall strategy. So there are 4 configurations in SAFe. These levels include, or these configurations, excuse me, include one or more of the safe levels that we just discussed. The essential safe configuration includes the essential safe level only. In this configuration, the focus is on feature development by a single Agile release train. It is made up into multiple development teams that are working on stories. Together, these stories result in the development and eventual deployment of features. Large solution safe includes the essential level and the large solution level. In this configuration, we have multiple Agile release trains that make up a solution train. The solution train is working on capabilities that are broken down into features, which are developed by Agile release trains. Portfolio safe includes the essential level and the portfolio level. In this configuration, we have value streams and portfolio epics. These epics are broken down into features and are developed by an Agile release train. And then full safe configuration includes all three of the levels. So an Agile release train, or an ART, it's a large team of Agile teams. The teams can be both Scrum or Kanban. They are cross-functional and focus on feature development. Agile release trains are normally 50 to 125 people. The focus is to incrementally develop and deliver solutions in a value stream. Development takes place within iterations that are planned for within a program increment, or PI. A program increment is an 8 to 12 week time box. It includes 5 iterations where an Agile release train delivers and even can deploy new functionality. The common pattern for Agile release trains is to have the first 4 iterations in a program increment to be for development. Iteration 5 will then be used for innovation and planning. Program increment planning aligns all teams in an Agile release train. It is a face-to-face event, but for geographically separated teams, it can include video conferencing. It is a 2-day event that is facilitated by the release train engineer. The inputs are business context, roadmap and vision, and the top 10 features in the program backlog. The output from a successful PI planning event includes the committed objectives for the PI and the program or PI board. So you can use Jira software out-of-the-box configurations to configure safe. This is one of the many possible ways to configure essential safe with Jira software. So you'll see that there is a single Agile release train Jira project. In this single project, we have a program backlog. This program backlog is typically a Kanban board and it includes features. For this example, the features would be out-of-the-box epics. So these features that live in the program backlog, the Kanban board is used to track feature development and deployment, but they're linked down to stories. And these stories live in team boards within the project. The teams can be Kanban or Scrum and use those types of boards. And then the teams are, again, epic linked. The stories are epic linked up to the features. How teams are differentiated and identified would be via a custom field or a component field. And then you would use that field in the filter for when creating and using the board. But management does not get the much needed reporting with an out-of-the-box Jira safe implementation. Reporting is just visual communications used to answer questions for customers. There are many challenges in reporting. Different roles in the organization need to see the reporting from different data sets. Each role has different customers, and the different customers have different questions that need to be answered. Management may also want to see different representations of the same data. We all consume data differently, and a report is only as good as the questions it can answer by the intended consumers. There are a lot of reporting apps out there. However, many of them dictate a few things. They tell you what data you will see, and they tell you how you will see it. This does not help meet the need of different data for different roles and the need for different representations of the data. Also, you might require multiple applications to provide you the common reports that are needed for SAFe. Let's review some of these. So there are many common reports and tools that are needed for organizations working in Essential Safe. Product and feature roadmaps can be used as reports and planning tools. They are used to identify which team or teams is working on which features and in what PI. A program or PI board is used to understand which team is working on what stories in what sprint in a PI. Dependency reports help map out and visualize dependencies of features and stories. A program velocity report measures velocity for each team and for the entire Agile release train. So what is VisualScript? VisualScript is a marketplace application that is available for both Jira and for Confluence. It is a cross-team reporting tool, and it's used to support organizations working in any level of SAFe or any other Agile framework. It supports ITIL version 4 and all other ITSM configurations. It also supports Enterprise Service Management, ESM, that is used to standardize service management processes across the business. So VisualScript comes to your data, meaning that no matter where you are in your Agile journey, it can work with the data you have in Jira at any time. It is a custom reporting tool, and it includes a lot of rich built-in reports like a PI board, a product roadmap, and a velocity report. But it's also a developer's tool. So it allows developers the ability to create custom reports with JavaScript for their customers. So with that, we will now demo our Essential Safe solution with VisualScript for Jira. So when you first install VisualScript for Jira has all of its reports in Jira dashboard gadgets. So everything lives in the dashboard. When you install the add-on, it comes with a gadget called VisualScript. When you add this gadget, you're going to see a folder structure. So this folder structure under My Reports, it's basically created by the admin. The admin will go in there and they will create folders, organize the scripts within folders. They will also create scripts. They can edit scripts, and they can import and export scripts, delete scripts, etc. This top part right here is your custom script library. So this custom script library is basically including your custom scripts that are created by a developer. They include also the scripts that are created off of the built-in report templates. So when I click on built-in reports, this is the list of reports that currently comes with VisualScript for Jira. This list is constantly growing, but you'll see right now it includes a PI board, it includes things like issue dependency, a product roadmap, and velocity report. We'll talk about some of those in this example. So with VisualScript, we say that the power within the application is not necessarily within a single report. The power is usually how you can combine reports, combine gadgets to tell a story. And today's story we will tell is Essential Safe. When you first launch a gadget and then launch a report, it's going to typically ask you for a series of parameters, one to many. And these parameters are used by VisualScript to reach into your data, to find the correct data based off of the values entered, grab that data, create the visual. So remember our example in a slide deck with regard to how you can configure Essential Safe with out-of-the-box Jira. We had a single project for your Agile release train. We're going to continue down that road here. So your project is LTMA. This is your Agile release train project. You can enter multiple projects, comma separated, but for the sake of this demo, it's a single Agile release train project. Next is a true or false question, and it's asking you, are you using planned data? Meaning, are you using due dates? If you're not, it's going to look for the resolution date. The next one is the versions. You'll see at the bottom here, we are using the fixed version field, and here we're entering our values. These are the values of fixed versions within the project, PI1 through PI4. Lastly, we are using the component field as our team field. It doesn't have to be the component field. VisualScript is customizable to where you can use a custom field. You just type the name in. If you type project in here, just make sure you have all your projects in here custom separated, comma separated, and it will do the right thing. So when I run this report, now VisualScript is reaching in, it's grabbing that data, it's creating the visual, and it gives me my product roadmap. So when I zoom in, you'll see that it gives me a timeline. And then on the timeline, it includes all of my fixed versions. And these fixed versions on the timeline are based on the beginning and end date of those fixed versions. That's how we create that time box. And then you'll see that each swim lane is a team. And then within each fixed version, we have our epics. So LTMA 9 is an example. It includes the link to the epic. It includes the epic name. On the left-hand side here, blue to do, yellow in progress, green being done, we have the status of the epic itself. But on the right-hand side, we have the status of the issues that are linked to this epic that have the component field of Team A and the fixed version field of PI1. So you'll see LTMA 9 is showing in PI1 and in PI3. That's because in PI3, LTMA 9 has a single issue, hyperlinked here, that is to do. It has a component Team A, and it's in PI3 as the fixed version. VisualScript in this particular report will show the epic wherever the criteria is met. So if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see that LTMA 20 is located under Team A and Team B. That is because LTMA 20 has issues that have the different component field depending on where it's located for Team A and Team B, and then they're assigned to those specific fixed versions. Once again, VisualScript will show the epic wherever the criteria is met. Now remember, we talked about you can have different representations of the data. So we have this feature roadmap. Now the product roadmap I showed you is a built-in script. The feature roadmap is currently not, but it will be a built-in very soon. And the idea here is to show another representation of a roadmap. And we added a few different parameters in here as well. So it's using the same data set, but it's showing a different visual. So again, we have our Agile release train project. We're entering our fixed versions. We're doing PI1, PI2, and PI3 here. We have this other parameter, and now this is a team filter. So this allows me the ability to include only the teams that I want to include in the report. The team field is the component. And finally, we added another parameter here, which is, do you want to show dependency lines between the epics themselves? So now remember, this report is using the same exact data, but it's representing it differently for the consumer. So you'll see that the columns here are the PIs, PI1, PI2, and PI3. It's got the start and end dates. There's no swim lanes here though. Basically what we include are the epics within the PI that are being worked on. So you'll see the epic includes the epic key with hyperlink to the epic name, the teams or team that are working on the underlying stories within that epic. So these are the teams assigned that component field within those stories, and then the status to do. We also include a hyperlink here that includes the number of stories that are linked to that epic and the percentage of which are resolved. Finally, we have, we also have dependency lines between the epics. So these are using the block link type, but again, VisualScript is customizable. If you want to use a different link type, it's totally doable. And then finally, we have this expanded view. So now this is a newer feature that when I click it, it will create a new visual. So I'm digging deeper into the data when I use something like this. So it gives me a grid, and it's giving me a grid of all of my stories. And all of my stories linked to that epic with the summaries, the sprints that they're included in, these teams that are assigned, the story points, the status, and the dependencies. So these are the dependencies of the stories. Now, while you're doing your feature planning, you will have conversations around dependencies. So you can either use a report like this, and you can see the different dependencies, or you can use a utility report that we created called the Epic Dependency Report. With this report, all you enter is the epic key and the link type. And when I run this report, it's going to give me the epic on the left-hand side. Now the center row are the issues that are epic linked to that epic. These are the stories that are linked directly to the epic. On the bottom row, we have the issues that are being blocked by that center issue that's linked to the epic. And on the top row, we have the issues that are blocking that center issue. For example, 35, 36, and 37 are being blocked by 25, which is my central issue. and then 40 and 41 are blocking 25. So you'll see how you can use this report while you're doing your feature planning so that you can then have a comprehensive visual of what is included in each epic, which will help you with things like planning and prioritization, things like that. So now we have our feature planning done, and we know which PIs we're going to be working on in our individual epics and features. So, but next what we need to know is how much work can our teams do? How much work can we do overall, our Agile release train, right? So we have our velocity report. Now this velocity report, the focus and the purpose of this report is to show velocity by team with the ability to dig in and see that average velocity throughout sprints of that team. The velocity overall across all my product teams working on the same program. And then how many sprints it's going to take to complete the remaining work. So the parameters we ask for are the project key. So this is our Agile release train project. The report start and end date, and the team field being component. Why do we use the report start and end date? Well, we wanted to give the users the flexibility to time box and measure velocity in any way that they want to. So they might want to do it over an iteration. They might want to do it over an entire PI or even the life of the product. VisualScript will give them that flexibility to visualize velocity in any way, in any time box that is needed. So this report includes three tables. The top table here is our team table, if you will. It includes each one of our teams in rows, and each team includes the total estimated story points, the total completed story points, the number of sprints that the train worked on that were completed and to which team A contributed and completed some story points in, and then team A's velocity. So each individual team's velocity. If I want to dig a little deeper, I can click on this expanded view in each team, and I can see the data averaged out by sprint. And you'll see I have hyperlinks to the sprints, I have hyperlinks to the teams. I can get to all that data in an issue navigator. The second table is the table for our program, for Agile release train, if you will. So we have the total story points, the total completed story points across all of our teams, the completed sprints that the train worked on, and the overall velocity. So the final table is telling us how many sprints is it going to take to complete the remaining work, which in this case there's none, but in the remaining work, the difference between estimated and completed as it relates to our velocity. So if the difference is 1 through 33, this number would be 1 and so on. Now remember, there's no such thing as good or bad velocity. The idea is velocity is per team, and we're always trying to get our teams to work better and stronger and faster and more efficiently. And the idea with this report is not in any way to be put into a dashboard and showed across all the teams for competition. The idea here is that product management can use this report to easily see the velocity across all of their teams, manage trends, and see the velocity across this train. And what's nice about it is this report can be used in retrospective, but it can also be used as a planning tool. And we use it as a planning tool for when we're doing our PI planning. So we have a PI planning board. And the PI planning board, it's only going to ask for three parameters: the Agile release train project we enter here, the sprint names, and the team field being the component. Now, the PI planning board is going to be what you would typically expect. The y-axis is going to be the teams. So we have our teams here. The x-axis is going to be our sprints, sprint 1 through 5. And in each cell are the stories that that team is working on in that individual sprint. Also notice that we have the dependencies that go across teams and across sprints. This is based off the block link type. However, again, you can customize this to make it work to however you need. So you'll see that LTMA 109 as an example is a story. We include the hyperlink to the story itself, the hyperlink to the epic with the epic name, the summary of the story, and the status. Also notice that LTMA 109 has one issue that it's blocking and 2 issues that are blocking it. Now remember, when we went and did our feature planning, we had that utility tool. We had that utility report that helped us manage our dependencies and visualize them. So we have the same at the story level. and it is called our issue dependency report. So with this report, you enter the key of the story, the link name, and when I run this report, it's going to give me a dependency report for that individual story. So you'll see we have the target issue, we have the issues that it's blocking, 49, 91, and 104, and 133 is being blocked, or is being blocked by 109. So we told an entire story here with these reports. We started out with our feature planning. So we had 2 roadmaps that we could use for that. And also keep in mind that these are not just reports, these are planning tools. So you can use them for planning, but you can also use them as status reports at any real time on refresh. You can also use them in retrospective at the end of certain time boxes to which you want to go back and see how you did in certain time boxes. So you use these 2 reports for feature planning. And while you're doing your feature planning, you use this report, the Epic Dependency Report, to help you with your dependencies. So this helps you identify those dependencies so that you can plan. And then you use the Velocity Report to understand how much work have our teams been able to do per iteration. How much work can we do overall per iteration? So this is a great planning tool, and it's also great as a retrospective tool to look back and see how we have done. And we can do that even by sprint. And then we're ready for our PI planning. So we start doing our PI planning, and you can use this report as your PI planning board. So put it up on a big screen and do all your PI planning that way. You can use it, so for the planning itself, you can also use it as a status report. So you can see the status of things as we're going sprint by sprint across the PI. You can even use it as a retrospective. So you can look during your retrospective, you can look back and you can see how you did in a PI. And then while you're doing that planning, you can use a report like this, which is our issue dependency report. And that's the report that's used to help us understand the dependencies while we're doing our PI planning. So that concludes the demo portion of the webinar. And I know there were a bunch of questions. So I'm going to ask Joshua to help me with this part, and we'll go through the Q&A.
Yeah, and there were some really good questions popping up. There was several kind of around customizations. Can you change the epic color? Can you do a drop-down list instead of a text field? How can these reports be modified to kind of fit our needs? Quite a few questions around that. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything's customizable. It's JavaScript, so you can edit colors. You can modify headers. You can even go as deep as modifying the type of data that you're reaching into Jira and pulling, so that you can include different metadata into each one of those shapes. So it really all depends on the level of ability to use JavaScript in order to like how deep you can go into that customization. But in terms of customizing colors, customizing returns, things like that, it's JavaScript. You go right into the script itself at the admin interface, and you can work that way.
Awesome. And then so next one was, how are sprints related to PIs, program increments?
Okay, good. So in Scaled Agile, you'll have a program increment, and that program increment will include 5 iterations. Those 5 iterations are also known in Scrum as sprints. Okay, so they're typically 2-week iterations, usually 1 to 4, and then you'll have 5 of those within a PI. Nice.
There's a few questions around, what is VisualScript, and I can answer that. It's a Atlassian add-on. You can purchase it from the Atlassian marketplace, etc. As Evan just said, it's fairly flexible. It's backed by JavaScript, so it can be adapted to use a lot of cases. It is available on cloud and server, and we're working on data center approval right now. So that's what it is. And then,
and real quick, I saw that one of the parts of that first question I did not answer are, yes, in the parameter section, you can, and Joshua did answer a lot of this, you can change the type of parameter you're using. So you can make it text, you can make it a drop-down, Boolean, things like that.
Yeah. So the next one is, you mentioned the feature roadmap can be added later. I mean, the feature is being worked on by a Jira team. I think, I'm not sure I understand that question.
I think I understand where it was coming from, and it's probably
Okay.
because I didn't explain it very clearly. The feature roadmap is not currently a built-in script in VisualScript. Hopefully, this answers the question. It's going to be a built-in in the next release, but it's currently a custom script that we've been working on to eventually be a built-in. So that's what I meant by adding later.
Yeah, thanks. Makes sense. Cool. And then, can you create a view that shows the progress for all active trains, like a new report?
The progress of all active trains. So we're talking about like at the large solution level.
Exactly. Yeah.
So VisualScript is completely customizable and scalable to any level of safe. So some of the things that we have worked on, but we just didn't show today, are solution train, like capability roadmaps, portfolio epic roadmaps, capability and portfolio epic dependency reports. We can do solution train velocity, so you can see how much work your overall solution train can do based on all your release trains. So yes, we can just go up a level. It just means that we're reaching down to an extra level, which would be the essential level versus just the teams themselves. So we can grab that data. It's just via the Jira API, and then we can work with it to create that visual.
Awesome. Next question is, and we're going to try to get through as many as we can. So thank you everybody for asking. If anything we don't get to, at the end of the webinar, we'll send some details on how you can reach out to us. We can follow up with you, and we can have offline answer all these questions as well. So the next one is the velocity just for the current PI, or can you show the velocity for the last few PIs to see how consistent the teams are from PI to PI? It's a really good question.
Yeah, this is a good question. So the velocity is based off of a time box to which you enter. So you'll notice in the parameters, we had a start date and an end date. So you can make this an individual PI. You can do multiple PIs. You can make it over the course of a year if you want to. It doesn't really matter. It's going to do the right thing, and it's going to reach in and find the velocity based off of that time box.
So a couple of questions around the scripts, and the quick answer is JavaScript, and it supports ECMA 6. A lot of our built-ins are using pretty modern JavaScript, like promises and things of that nature. Not any user can edit it, so we have it set up currently that only admins, you have to be in the admin area of your Atlassian instance to edit the scripts. This is just to kind of keep things nice and clean, so there's no mistakes. But yeah, they're all of the scripts we've shown today, everything can be created in the product in the admin area. You could do offline. You can use any code editor to write JavaScript like you normally would do and use that normal workflow, checking into source control, for example, and then just moving them, importing them into the application itself. But yeah, it is using pretty modern JavaScript. We do support ECMA 6 and promises and features like that.
Cool.
The next one is, are the reports tabular, or can you develop a dashboard view for senior leaders? I think I understand that question. It's very good at creating custom dashboards using all kinds of reports. And you can make that dashboard available to senior staff, and it can be kind of customized however you need it to be. It doesn't have to be a tabular piece of data. You can roll up or summarize the data any way you want. And to kind of reiterate that, the tool's very flexible. Creating custom reports is really what it's specialized in. A lot of what we showed today are built-in reports that work out of the box. You don't have to customize if your data works with it, but you can certainly build a dashboard for senior leaders.
And just to add to that, what's awesome about VisualScript is, yes, you can create dashboards for different levels of your organization. The idea with the built-ins, as we're growing this list of built-ins, and it's constantly being added to, And the idea is that anyone in the organization, whether it be like just a product manager or a train engineer or someone at the management level, can go in and use one of those reports pretty much out of the box in any installation with any data configuration. As long as you can fill in the values of those parameters, the report will run. Though there's another level to that, right? There's a level above that where you can go in the admin side and you can edit those built-ins and make them your own, right? And then there's a level beyond that where you're actually a developer and you have the ability and the flexibility to pretty much create anything that based on the data that you can reach in the API, and then via JavaScript.
Yeah, there's just kind of summarizing some of these questions about working with tools like Jira Align, which is called Agile Craft, other tools like Structure, Jira Portfolio, Bitbucket pipelines, and other CI/CD tools. Evan just kind of spoke to it a little bit, but we'll kind of reiterate it. Because the reports fundamentally are JavaScript and they're running in the browser, we can reach out to just about any REST endpoint. So working with tools like Jira Align, Structure, Portfolio, we either need to be able to get to it through JQL, so using the built-in REST endpoints inside of Jira or Confluence itself. So any other add-on, any other tool that is part of your Atlassian instances, as long as they have JQL extensions, we're going to be able to reach out and get that data out and then use it as part of the reports. A second level to that is if you have an external system, because it's code, we can reach out and call those REST endpoints. And as long as all the authentication is set up correctly and those REST endpoints are accessible, we can pull that external data in, such as Jira Align would be an example of that. Something like a Tempo or a Workday, any kind of external tools. We can pull that data in, merge it into your Atlassian data, and then create other reports there. That's a bit more involved, probably worthy of a separate conversation with our team of customer success. So I'd say if you have questions around working with external systems, we'll have a follow-up conversation so we can dive into that and spec out what your needs are and what that might look like.
What else? What other questions do we have?
Through. Do you want to quickly show the admin part? There's a few questions around how the script's edited. What does the admin area look like? Evan, do you want to show that real quick?
Sure. So on the admin side, you'll see this area where you can do create and edit reports. So back here, it's going to look very close to what you see from the dashboard. But this is the view that an admin sees. They can create a new report where it's going to give them a text editor and they can start working from there. You can actually as well go to the built-in reports, and these are templates. So if you click on the PI board as an example, it's going to give you the entire script, all the parameters. You can edit that, add a name, and create it, and then it'll get added to your My Reports section up here. So it'll be your version of that PI board. You can import reports. You can add new folders. So we're basically creating folders and organizing our scripts. You can drag and drop scripts here as well. You can also click on one and export the script. So you can move it between like your dev instance and your production instance, things like that.
Thanks, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question. So it's asking, are there any certifications for VisualScript? Not currently, it's something that we're exploring. But we have a lot of information on the VisualScript website around the tools, the SDK, everything that you can use to build. A lot of training videos, and we're constantly adding to that. We're always trying to make this as easy to use. We recognize that it is code, which can be alarming sometimes, but we're doing a lot to make it as easy as possible, giving you what amounts to kind of Stack Overflow style copy and paste to keep it really simple. So we can share that link in the follow-up email of where to go, where to look, and you can definitely learn, but there's no official certification available currently. That's a good question. I think we have another one. So there are metrics that don't show up in Jira dashboards. For example, items from report. I believe I saw displayed in VisualScript, make it easier to also potentially send this info to a data lake via an API. That's a really interesting question. VisualScript is really about visualizing data rather than collecting and sending it out. Love to have a conversation after this to really understand more about it, what you're kind of looking to do, and see, so we can understand how best to answer that. Kind of a hard answer here, if that's okay. So for the person asking that question, please reach out to us so we can kind of talk a bit more elaborate, larger about that.
You know, one question, Joshua, that we get asked quite often, I actually do see it here, is with regard to our roadmap, like what are we close to releasing?
Yep.
It's asked often in almost all of our calls. So to answer that question, simply it's a lot. We're working on a release right now where we're gonna send out our ITSM solution. So this solution will include things like timelines for problems, which start with like the initial incident all the way through the delivery of the package. It's going to include things like your health gauge based off your service desk SLA data. So a lot of stuff like that. There's going to be a bunch of reports around ITSM. As far as the other stuff we're working on is we're working on line charts and area charts. So we have gauges right now, and the line charts will be used in both our ITSM solution and our scaled agile solution. So you'll see things like we already have a sprint burn down, but we'll update it to include the new line chart, and we'll do PI burn downs, PI burn ups, epic burn down, epic burn up, all those types of things. And then with an area chart, you know, we have a lot of flexibility there to start looking into things like cumulative flow. So there's always stuff that we're working on, and we're always working on adding more and more to that built-in list so that every user can go in there and just get a tremendous amount of value right out of the box. So
Excellent. So I think checking time, we'll have time for about one more question, and we'll do this one. Are you able to customize the velocity formula to include or exclude items, types, or states?
Okay, I think I understand the question. So we can add a parameter into the velocity report that would allow you the opportunity to see only certain issue types, right? So you can do that. Right now it's calculating everything that's estimated in those sprints, but so you can do that. You can also add a parameter that would filter out statuses if that's something you want to do as well. I think that answers the question, but if it doesn't, then please do reach out. I have one more slide that I'll show, and I'll include my contact information, and please do reach out and we can have a conversation around it specifically. We have also done stuff where we've done like story points committed versus delivered, things like that, with gauge reports that show that, you know, green to red or red to green of how much you've delivered over time. So I think is that it for the Q&A right now, Joshua? We'll answer the rest over email.
Yeah.
Okay. So just kind of next steps, and then we'll let everyone go. I know we're at time. Is we're constantly adding more stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there right now, and I know I keep mentioning that, but my email address is below. Please do schedule some time with us. Happy to talk about your use case, answer any questions you might have. The other reason I mentioned that we have a lot of built-ins that we're constantly adding is look out for our webinars. We're going to be showing a lot of our different solutions. You know, we just talked about ITSM, things like that, as well as additional safe type things, depending, you know, as we start adding more to that solution. A member of our customer success team will reach out to you, and we promised you the t-shirt. That's what it looks like there. They're going to reach out to you, get that information so that you can get that t-shirt. And they're also going to notify the lucky winner of the raffle drawing, which is the AirPods. Again, I know we're closing. I just want to thank everyone one more time. You know, we know everyone is busy, and we can't thank you enough for joining the webinar. And have a great rest of your day, and thank you again.